everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Recovery Scene. We have been on hiatus for a little while. Thank you all so much for your patience with the end of school year and everything that comes with it, and dance recitals and dress rehearsals, and oh my God. But we're back. And we are starting off with Josie and Josie. I work for Josie. I'm interviewing Josie. And we're starting with her story today. So I am very happy to have her on. It was so funny because I messaged her and I was like, do you want to be on the podcast? And she said, that is so funny because I just got 21 months clean. So that's awesome. So Josie, oh my God, I'm going to do that the whole time because I work.
It's either or. I just let people pick what's easiest for them to say.
So Miss Story, I am going to let you take it away and just kind of lead us into it. I mean, what was it like growing up for you?
It was not fun. I was born into a very dysfunctional family. I'm talking long history of mental illness, addiction, a lot of generational trauma, sexual abuse, narcissistic abuse, the whole nine.
Right.
I was molested for the first 12 years of my life.
Family member?
Yes.
Usually how it is. Yep.
I honestly don't remember most of my childhood up until like my preteen years. And that's really when things started to become hard for me, because with it being a family member that was abusing me, I had this pressure to keep it a secret, keep the family together. We have enough problems. I'm not going to be the reason everything falls apart.
Right.
I want to be the one that keeps everyone together. Apparently I was the only one with that mindset. So it was very lonely. I couldn't let myself get close to my siblings because the closer I got, the more I knew there was a chance of letting it slip what was happening.
Right.
So really the only person I had growing up was myself. Things started to get more challenging with middle school. You know, you got like the social pressures, bullying's really bad in middle school. And I ended up actually hurting myself in a track meet. I was 12 years old, so it was towards the end of 7th grade, and ended up being prescribed Vicodin. And I remember that first dose clear as day, because I took it. I remember coming out of my room, going up to my mom, saying, my head feels so fuzzy.
Right.
Why do people like this?
Right.
She's like, that's what it feels like to be high. I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to worry about that because I'm not a fan. 20 minutes later, I'm on my bedroom floor doing my homework. I still got little like puppy dogs on my school folders, and it really hits. And I'm like, whoa, this is why people like this.
Yep.
All of that emotional pain, those burdens that I had been carrying for so long weren't there. I felt weightless, like I could do anything, like I could be the perfect kid that my mom wanted. And it very quickly turned into me injuring myself, self-harming, to be taken to the hospital to get more prescriptions. No one really caught on. I was kind of a klutz, so no one knew, like,
right. So nobody questioned it, right? But you were off.
Yeah. And I always made sure like no one was around when I would hurt myself and be like, oh, I fell in the shower when you were at work and I sprained my ankle. Like, we need to go to the ER. It was pretty bad. That was also around the time that I got a little bit ahead of myself. So a year before I was
up and guys, these are not rehearsed. These stories
I
are rehearsed. They are off the cuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
backtrack and go for it. Fine. They get it. They've seen it.
Um, so about 8 months before the sports injury, one of my father's friends had forced himself on me. I was home alone with my baby sister. His friend was watching us. And I had always had like this really like bad feeling about this man. And he'd been a friend of the family my entire life. I just could never place what was off about him until he came back to the bedroom, got this close to my face, and said, "Are you scared of me?" At 12 years old, I looked this 43-year-old man in the eye and said, "No." And he kissed me on the lips. I got up, took my baby sister out to the living room, and told him I was going to take a shower because for some reason in my head, like, he's not going to follow me into the shower, right?
Alone if you were doing something personal, right? You're thinking like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, basically. And as I was walking towards the bathroom, he grabbed my wrist, pulled me into him, and shoved his tongue down my throat. My dad, who was at a doctor's appointment with his wife at the time, she was pregnant with my baby brother.
Mm-hmm.
They rushed home. The police were called. By the time they caught up with him, he was already an hour away and had said that I had seduced him.
A 12-year-old.
A 12-year-old. And absolutely nothing happened. So this is in addition to the 12 years of abuse that I had already gone through. But it also led to that other abuse stopping. So it was kind of like, it was a blessing and a curse.
Right. So now when that happened, did you have the mindset to call your parents? Is that why?
Yes.
Okay.
So my dad had left his cell phone at home when he went to this appointment with his now ex-wife. Mm-hmm. And they had her phone. So I had grabbed my baby sister, walked out, was pacing up and down the trailer park on the phone with him. One of the neighbors overheard and invited me into their home until my dad was able to get home. So it was a very scary thing. And that's when pretty much everything started to go downhill. I was blaming myself. How could this happen again? Like, how could I not see it? How could I not know the signs? And then why is this the thing that made the abuse from this other family member stop? It was too much for my 12-year-old brain to process. And that's when the nightmares really began. The mental health issues really began. Then I was prescribed the Vicodin and it got way worse. By my freshman year of high school, I was drinking. I was raiding. We had our hallway closet, the top 2 shelves were all leftover medications, anything that hadn't been taken, and it had been stockpiled for years.
Right. Nobody cares if it's expired. You're not thinking, hey, is this expired? It might not be good for me.
I mean, I'm 12, 13, 14 years old, so I hadn't made it to chemistry yet to know that was.
And even if you did, I got a C. I don't know about you, but I didn't do so.
Yeah. And it had become part of my morning routine was to, okay, I'm not seeing anything in this medicine closet that I like. Let me do a couple shots of tequila before I go to the bus stop. It got to a point where that was the only way I could succeed in my classes. It was the only way I could put up this front so that nobody knew that I was struggling with these things. By this point, I had confided in, I think, 2 or 3 friends about the family member that had abused me. It wasn't until My first high school crush. I had mentioned something about the nightmares, and he asked what they were about. And I just couldn't hold it back anymore. I told him, you know, this has been going on. It hasn't been going on for the last 2 years. I don't know what to do because I can't keep it to myself anymore, but I'm scared of what's going to happen. And he ultimately said, you know, fuck everybody else. You have to do what is best for you. This is a serious thing.
And this is just conjecture, but you know, that family member, and I'm wondering if it stopped because that family member was pissing themselves because you called your dad when it happened with the older man. So suddenly it's like, wait a minute, she has the cojones to say something to somebody. So I really wonder if it was fear, basically, which is kind of nice because I don't mind thinking of your abuser squirming a little bit, thinking about, you know.
Oh, I've been making this particular abuser squirm quite a bit for the last few months. That is the final part of my story that I want to share. And when I do share who it is, I'm going all out. I'm not just calling out the abuser. I'm calling out the enablers. I'm calling out the people that just turn the other way. And I'm calling out everyone that swept it under the rug.
We're all here for it. If you're here for it and you're on this live, comment below, I'm here for it. We are here for it. Yes. So anyway, you told your crush and he was like, F everyone. Do what you got to do.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was, okay, maybe if I listen to him, he'll ask me out. Or like, I don't know what was going through my head. But the next day, it was St. Patrick's Day, 2009. I remember the exact outfit that I was wearing. I didn't even make it to first period the very next day. I went straight to the guidance counselor's office and told him everything.
Awesome. Awesome. And Nicola says, I'm here for it, by the way.
Hell yeah. That was a very scary time for me because I didn't like.
13 at this point?
I was 14, almost 15.
Still a kid.
So this was my freshman year of high school. I had just signed up for an AP class and 2 honors classes for my sophomore year. It was the start of high school is about creating yourself, your identity. And I had to pretty much start off high school dealing with this.
Right.
I ended up having to not drop out of school, but with my PTSD and anxiety, I was not able to attend school. So after so many days, I was able to get a tutor and we would go to the library. That was the only way I was able to pass my classes. The following year, I ended up flunking 3 classes because, I had left school 3 months before the end of my freshman year. So that's 6 months outside of really any social environment. I didn't do anything really with friends that summer. It was home, it was church, and that was pretty much it.
Right.
So it was hard to balance my social life, these really intense classes, which I learned really quickly, like there's no way I can do this. But I had missed the deadline to drop down to lower level classes. Instead of my mother supporting me through this, knowing that she had very similar experiences in her childhood, she pushed it off on the professionals. and actually stood there and made fun of me while tears were rolling down my face because I could not understand my biology homework.
That's
just
rough.
making dumb blonde jokes with my older brother, just not realizing like this isn't because I'm not smart. This is because like I was traumatized, and up until this point it's been completely swept under the rug.
Right.
Like, yeah, there was an investigation. CPS was involved. When we found out this person wasn't going to be prosecuted, my mom reached out to other prosecutors, state representatives, but there was no comfort. There was still no feeling of safety. And that kind of really fucked me up, honestly.
Right. Reassuring you this was not your fault. Right.
Yeah. I actually remember having a panic attack one night because my stepfather had come into the bathroom while I was taking a shower because he had to pee. That was something that my childhood abuser used to do. So it triggered an anxiety attack, and I kept asking him to get out. This is my house. You can't tell me what to do in my house. I had a panic attack, and my mom, while I'm on the bathroom floor punching it because I don't know what else to do with the anxious energy in my body, is sitting there calling me a drama queen. I'm triggered because your husband is doing something very similar to what I experienced while I was being abused.
Right.
And I'm the drama queen. He's not the creep for wanting to be in here when you're 15-year-olds in the shower.
Right. The last thing I would be doing would be letting any man near my child.
Yeah.
In a compromising position or otherwise, knowing what had happened to her. So yeah, I get it. Your mom is supposed to protect you. So is your stepdad, as a matter of fact. Signed up for that.
No one did. My whole life, the only one that had any interest in protecting me was myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The years after coming forward about that abuse were extremely lonely. My sister and my little brother were very close to this person. And they honestly still to this day harbor a lot of resentment towards me for coming forward. My sister actually, I want to say not even 3 months after I came forward, we shared a bedroom. It was just me, her, and my mom that were home. So I'm standing in front of our closet trying to find a shirt to put on. So I've got like a sports bra and shorts on. Mm-hmm. She looks at me and says, wow, everything you went through with that person and you still act like a slut. Like, okay, so I still have no one. Right. So not only did I have to go through this abuse by myself, I also have to cope with it by myself. The therapist that I had at the time ended up leaving the practice. So I wasn't even in therapy anymore. And it got to a point where I really just didn't care. By my junior year of high school, I was skipping class on a regular basis. I was using pain pills on a regular basis. I had started smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, drinking at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Right. You know, they always say we're either escaping, coping, or self-medicating. I think we just need to take the or out of there, because usually we're escaping, coping, and self-medicating all at the same time.
Oh yeah, it was
pretty much anything that'll get us out of our head. Yeah.
And nobody knew, and I guess that's where like my advantage was. I never developed a bond with anyone in my family, a real bond. So I was the outsider looking in. I totally forgot where I was going with that.
That's okay. I do that all the time.
So a lot of this went unnoticed.
Right.
My older brother, my little brother, and my sister all had their own mental health issues that required way more attention. Mm-hmm. So I just flew under the radar until I forgot that I had a Vicodin in my pants pocket when I got home from school one day. Took a shower and it had fallen out. My mom went into the bathroom right after me and found it. I'm freaking out because like I can't tell her it's me. Like I know her thoughts on addiction. She cut off her own father because of his alcoholism. Like what the fuck is she gonna do to me?
Right.
So obviously I lied through my teeth. She said, okay, I'm gonna run down to the drugstore and get 4 drug tests, 1 for each of you, and we're gonna find out who it is. We're gonna see who's lying. By this point, I'm like shitting myself because I had just taken one before school. There's no way I'm peeing clean. Somehow I did. Somehow I peed clean.
It was probably a faulty test. Talk about lucky.
it had to have been. It had to have been.
Right.
So my mom grounded every single one of us until whoever it was stepped forward. It felt like 2 weeks, but it was probably honestly just a couple of days went by before I finally was like, listen, it was me. My sister was being very like hateful towards me. She's like, I know it's you. I know it's you. Like, just say something. Like, I couldn't take the heat anymore. So I was grounded for 6 months and my mom signed me up for a drug class. I was, out of 12 people, I was the only one in there for something other than me. The embarrassment I felt when the group leader had us go around and introduce ourselves, followed by our drug of choice. I'm the last one. I'm like, everyone else, I'm here for weed. I'm here for weed. I'm like, I'm here for opiates. I think I went to one more drug class after that. My mom's like, I'm not doing this anymore. So like, she really didn't even care to help me through my addiction when she found out that it was there. Things just kind of kept getting worse.
Now, I was just going to ask you, when do you think your addiction spiraled out? Because, you know, we all start with, I started with pills, I started with alcohol, I started with, and not necessarily in that order, I started with weed, you know, and just FYI, most of the time it's the people who go to meetings and they're like, I'm here because I smoke weed, and everybody goes. And everybody else is there because they're on something harder, you know. But I will say, if you are the person who goes to a meeting because you are smoking pot, let me tell you something. I don't care what kind of looks you get. I don't care what comments. We wish we would have stopped at pot. Okay.
Oh yeah.
We wish we were as smart as you and would have gone to a meeting when it was just pot and alcohol. So you're the smartest person in the room. Okay. So forget the looks. Don't worry about the giggles. All right. You're the smartest person in the room. So, okay. Off the soapbox. Tell us about when your addiction spiraled out of control and what that was like.
So there are 2 different parts to this because this is actually my second time getting clean. So the first time my addiction spiraled out of control, my daughter was, she was about 19 months old. And I had found out that she was being molested by my brother. I had to take,
I really wonder if he was as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had to take my 19-month-old to the hospital to have a rape kit done.
Oh God.
Um, the hardest thing I've ever had to go through.
I
'Cause
cannot imagine.
I still hadn't coped with what I had gone through. So this was making me face that, plus, you know, like, what do you do as a mom? Like, my mom did not do the right thing. I did not have an example for how to handle this.
Right.
They ended up finding that there wasn't enough evidence. My mom sided with my brother.
Shocker.
It was another very lonely point in my life. And that's when I went from just pills to the harder stuff.
Mhm.
I was doing coke here and there. I did Molly, I think once, meth once, and then I got into fentanyl.
And that's dangerous.
And that
It's
was
so dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, especially to go like for it to escalate that fast, because it
Right.
was just like pills every now and then to all of a sudden this is fucking fentanyl. Like
Right. Right.
every line that I did, I'm like, is this my last one?
Mhm.
Like, am I really gonna trust this person who threatened to rape me out of the transaction
Mhm.
than I was willing to give? Am I really trusting him to show me the right amount to take?
Right.
But I couldn't stop. It felt so, it was unreal. It felt like safety. It felt like security, like peace, things that I had never felt before. But I knew I had to stop, because
Right.
if I kept going, it would have killed me. And I didn't know what was going to happen to my daughter if that were the case. My mom had already made it clear she would not be taking her in for any reason. Her dad was worse off on drugs than I was. I didn't have any, she would have ended up in the system, and I could not let that happen. I promised her a better life than mine, and I was going to make sure I gave it to her. The first time I tried to stop, I made it 22 hours before I was curled up in a ball on the bathroom floor, scratching myself, to the point where I have blood dripping down my arms. I still have scars.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, opiate withdrawal, pills, heroin is horrible, and it doesn't peak for 72 hours. I could try and sit here and describe it to you. It's impossible if you've never lived through it. So fentanyl takes that volume and turns it way up. Enough fentanyl. And when I say enough, I don't mean a whole lot. There's fentanyl and there's carfentanil, and people are using carfentanil that can take down an elephant. As a matter of fact, it was an elephant tranquilizer. It takes so little to kill, and the withdrawal from it is horrific. It's awful.
Oh yeah, it was like nothing I have ever experienced before. The mental, emotional withdrawals kicked in before the physical, and that was what I struggled with the most. So while I'm on the bathroom floor, like literally begging God, like, either let this kill me or give me the strength. You have to do one of these two, because I cannot do this anymore.
Oh, and P.S. it can kill you. The withdrawal can kill you, just FYI.
Yeah. I heard this little voice, and I don't know whose voice it was. I don't know if it was God's voice, if it was my voice, just with this last little bit of hope saying, get up. And I got up. My friend came over and stayed with me until I fell asleep. The next day, I couldn't do it. by 10 a.m., I had already unblocked my dealer. I had already offered to trade my daughter's tablet to get some. The guy I was seeing at the time was messaging me, and while I'm messaging my dealer, I'm telling him, you know, I feel like shit. I feel like absolute shit, but I'm so confident that I can get sober while I'm texting my dealer. He ends up feeling off about the whole situation, comes over, grabs my phone out of my hand while it's open to the messages. And he just walked out. I have never seen him so upset where he could not look at me. He could not speak to me. And I've known him for over a decade. And that was the real breaking point. If I don't do this, I'm losing everything.
Right.
So what are my options? I couldn't go to rehab because who's gonna take care of my daughter? I didn't have anybody. If I was gonna go to rehab, I was gonna do it the right way. I'm not leaving until I know I can walk out that door and not pick up again.
Right.
So rehab wasn't an option. I got a bunch of over-the-counter like comfort meds. I got some journals, just a whole bunch of like comfort items to get me through the physical withdrawal. And then once that was over, I had a plan to finally come clean to my mental health team. And I managed to stay sober for 13 months. Around month 10 or 11, I met my ex, Dan, and I was under the impression that we were both on the right path. We were both staying clean. We were both trying to find housing and just get our shit together. Found out very quickly that was not the case. It was a very abusive relationship. It's still really hard to talk about. I ended up relapsing, I want to say 2 weeks after the first time he put his hands on me. I was being petty. We had someone that we both knew. He didn't like him. I never had any issues with him. Ended up hanging out with this guy, and he got me to try meth again. So this was my second time. And this was my abuser's drug of choice. Which is why I decided to do it. I wanted to see what the hype was all about. Like, why can't you stay away from this stuff? Like, what's going on here? And also, like, I'm going to do your drug of choice with someone that you hate because you put your hands on me.
Right.
With how sick I was at that point in time, it made sense to me. I ended up coming clean to him about it later on. And he made me promise him that if at any point he decided to get some, that I would do it with him. And I was stupid and made that promise thinking, like, if this does happen, I can talk myself out of it, or he's not really like low enough to actually do that. But he was. 3 days after we flushed all of his Suboxone down the toilet together, like, it was this huge thing that we made out of it. I mentioned that I was having a craving, and because I was so tense and my anxiety was so high, it came out as, I just want to fucking get high.
Right.
It wasn't like I'm really having cravings, but I assumed he would understand and be like, okay, we're both getting sober together. How can I support you through this? I went to the bathroom, I came back, and he had 2 lines ready to go on my dresser to punish me for having cravings.
Right.
I was faced with, okay, do I not do this, break a promise, and this gives him another way to abuse me, and that abuse is going to be immediate? Or do I do this, have 2 or 3 good days with him, and then deal with the abuse later? Obviously, I wanted to postpone the abuse.
Right.
The second time he did it, I was not having it though. You're not doing this to me again. I want to stay clean. I want to get my life together. So I tried to grab the bill that he had the ice on so that I could flush it down the toilet. And he pushed me and I fell backwards into my bathtub and hit the base of my skull on the ceramic soap holder thing,
Mm-hmm.
and got a pretty severe concussion. After getting up, I didn't even make it to the end of the hallway before collapsing because I had like no balance whatsoever. I want to say 2 weeks after that was when he almost killed me. My head was shoved into a toilet and slammed on my bathroom counter. I was choked to the point of almost blacking out and thrown onto the ground, landing less than a foot away from my daughter's feet. He ended up going to jail. He got 60 days with 2 years of probation. And then when I found out he was about to get out of jail, I couldn't handle it. I was terrified. This man violated the protection order 3 times. So like there's no point in getting another one when he gets out, because
Right. He doesn't care.
Yeah, let's just hope the police get here before he kills me. I wasn't about that. So I ended up relapsing again with meth. I did the one thing that I told myself that I would never do to get it. I performed a sexual favor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the real low point. That was the ultimate rock bottom for me, because of what I went through as a child. That had always been honest. I had always been proud of myself for not going that far to get a fix.
Right.
And it turned into a really scary situation too, because this guy ended up being a psychopath, threatening to shoot up my apartment when I told him, like, I don't want to do this. Like, this was just a one-time thing. That turned into an 8-day bender where I could feel my kidneys shutting down. I was peeing blood. When my body would like try to force itself to sleep, I would get these really vivid, like almost like Polaroid images in my mind of different ways that I could kill myself. And like basically like crime scene photos of someone finding me dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew, like, I have to wean myself down, because coming down from meth is the lowest I've ever felt in my entire life. It made me want to hurt people. It made me want to hurt myself. I cannot describe how bad I felt and how scared I was for my own safety just trying to get off of this drug. Forgot where I was.
You were coming off meth.
Yes, coming off meth. So I ended up coming up with a game plan to get clean. I sat down and I really, really looked at myself for the first time, met myself where I was at in that specific moment for the first time. I asked myself what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, what my barriers to recovery were, triggers, all of it. I incorporated my hobbies as well. So the last 3 days of my 8-day bender were spent on YouTube making an like addiction recovery playlist. I must have spent like 24 hours straight at least just on that. But I wanted to be prepared when I stopped, because the other times I had tried to stop meth, I got comfort meds. And I think that's why I kept going back, because I didn't let myself really feel that withdrawal. And that's what helped me with getting off of fentanyl, was actually like feeling that sickness and knowing I never want to feel this way again.
Right. I did the same thing. Never want to feel that again, ever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was 21 months ago.
Nice.
My recovery's mostly been focused on my mental health and my trauma, because those were the really big factors that played into my addiction. So I've been in trauma therapy for about 18 months now. After about a year clean, I was finally able to get a real sound mental health diagnosis, which also allowed me to be put on the right medications. I have not had to have any adjustments on my meds in months, and that is just crazy to me, because I've been like adjusting meds since I was 14 years old. So that's just it feels pretty great.
Yeah, it's nice when you finally find the right combination.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, call that bitch out. This was the big reveal at the end. Yes.
Yes. I want to, but I can't.
It's okay. It's okay. Seriously. Are you still is this person still in the family's life?
Yes and no. They still have contact with my my little sister and my little brother. I at this point have no contact with any of my family, so right. I don't know who's in contact with who anymore.
Right. Because even family, toxic is toxic, and if they have to go, they have to go. Family doesn't get a pass just because they're family. You know, that's a big misnomer. Is no, you do not have to. You can forgive, because forgiveness is for you. You know, we just learned about them. I'm gonna get out Jesus for a second. We just learned about this in our Bible study, but it's good stuff. Forgiveness says, I'm not holding on to this burden anymore. I'm not letting you off the hook, but I'm letting me off the hook. I don't have to carry this around anymore. That's what forgiveness is. You know, people think, oh, well, I can't, I just can't forgive them. That's not for them. You never even have to tell them. They don't even have to know.
Yes.
Forgiveness is absolutely for you. And it's not, it doesn't mean those emotions aren't going to be there. It doesn't mean if that person pops up into your head, you're not going to, you'll feel sick or angry or whatever. We're people, we're human. But we make a conscious decision that this thought came into my head. I don't have to let it stay there. I don't have to let you stay in my head. I forgive you, and that means you got to go.
Yes.
You got to go. And you might have to make that conscious choice 1,000 times a day.
Exactly.
But it'll stick eventually.
Yes. I heard a pastor one time compare forgiveness to a commitment. It's a commitment to do your best every day to not let what happened to you or what that person did affect who you are, what your truth is.
Right.
I see it a little differently. I do think forgiveness is extremely important. But from a trauma standpoint, I know that like it's not always feasible because of the nature of the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing was forgiving myself. I'm not ready to forgive this person yet, but I have to forgive myself
And
for
you can let
taking on the role
yourself
of protector.
off the hook.
Yes.
You were a kid. You let that kid off the hook, you know?
Yes. And I think forgiving yourself is almost more important than forgiving anybody else.
Right.
Because like you said, forgiving anybody else, that's still just for you.
Right.
That's your choice to make. And could it be really a really healing thing? Absolutely. But it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some people, the problem is they can't forgive themselves.
Yes.
And I agree with you 100%. That is way more important. You know, forgiving somebody it's almost like that's the deeper step. And you'll take that when you're ready. But yeah, the first step is 100% forgiving yourself. Absolutely.
And that has been a very big part of my recovery because I took on such a big responsibility at such a young age.
Right.
I blame myself for everything.
Right.
Why did I let this happen so many times? Why didn't I speak up sooner? I mean, I had people straight up asking me, is this person abusing you? And I'm telling them, no. Why? Who does that? Why? I could have saved myself sooner.
Yeah.
And the same thing when I started using. My dad is an alcoholic and a drug user. I actually make this joke a lot that my first time trying pain pills was not actually when I was 12. It was when I ate one of my dad's Oxycontin when I was 4 years old.
Oh, Lord have
thinking
mercy.
that it was candy. I don't know how I survived that. So I was really hard on myself. Like, I don't want to be like this person. Why am I doing this? And I had to forgive myself in order to overcome that, in order to break away from the shame. Because I mean, I got addiction and mental health issues and all this abuse on both sides of my family. Like, it was bound to happen.
Right. They say we've got a 50-50 shot. We have a 50-50 shot. And I know there's a couple of sisters and their parents are addicts. And one sister, the one that I know, has never touched it, will never touch it because her parents were addicts. And the other sister absolutely followed in her parents' footsteps. So if any family shows you that there's a 50-50 shot, it's that family, you know.
Oh, yeah. And my family, it's not even 50-50. I'm pretty sure
you're like, it's 99 and 1.
I'm pretty sure all 4 of us did some kind of drugs at some point.
Right. Oh my God. Well, Josie, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate you. This was such a raw, no holds barred interview. I mean, you really put yourself out there. I got to tell you, on our live. So Nicola said, I'm sorry for what you went through, Josie. Julie Ann from England, she's a friend of mine. I know she's from England. She said, you are very brave being here, telling your story. Nicola said, she's so proud of you. Julie said, you know, keep yourself safe. And Nicola said that she can relate to some of the stuff that you were saying. So, you know, I know that you've touched the lives with this interview just already. I haven't even posted it yet, you know, on the podcast. So you're definitely going to touch lives. And my thing is always, if however many people listen, if it hits one person and either gets them to quit or stops them from starting, then we've done our job. You know?
Yes, and that's exactly why I wanted to share my story today.
Yeah. And I know you're on TikTok. Tell people where they can follow you, or, you know, whatever. What social media do you want to share?
So social media is kind of weird for me right now, because I'm still dealing with my abuser. Hopefully on the 30th, he'll be back in jail. I'll let you guys know about that one.
Yes. Oh, so we got a follow-up interview coming, people.
Oh yeah, I'm doing a victim impact statement too, so it's going to be real interesting.
Nice. So we need to do an interview in July, is what you're saying.
I'm down.
Okay, good, excellent.
So right now it's mostly just Facebook and TikTok.
Okay.
Those are the only places he can't find me on.
Mm-hmm. What's your name on
As of
TikTok?
right now. It's Diary. No
Hold on, you
spaces,
froze
no
for a
fancy
second.
like.
Say it again. Sorry, now you froze. Take a second.
It's Diary of a Hope Dealer.
Nice. Diary of a Hope Dealer, you guys, on TikTok. Make sure you follow Josie. So again, Josie, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you being on the podcast and just being willing to share your story of addiction, recovery, and hope. You know, and not
Thank you
just
for having me.
You're welcome. And not just for addicts, but for, you know, victims of sexual abuse as well. You know, and let me tell you, people, anybody who has been watching our podcasts, especially where the females are concerned, sexual abuse and addiction tend to go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
But remember, everybody, addiction isn't pretty, but recovery is beautiful. And we will see you next time on the recovery scene. Bye.